Good evening and welcome to the seventh talk in the series Studies in Sri Aurobindo. On this occasion of Sri Aurobindo's Mahasamadhi, 5th December, we at Sakar have thought that we would change the format for today and have a lot of questions, not only on this day, but on the topic that was given by our speaker, Mr. Anmol Jain, and how is Sri Aurobindo advancing towards the future? From our participants, we have received quite a few questions, and today's session will be more like a question answer or an interview, if not interview, a question answer session from our knowledgeable speaker. And I request all those who have questions can keep posting on the chat box or on the WhatsApp group if you want. And if time permits, we will take up the questions apart from what we already have. Now, let me introduce the speaker. Mr. Anmol Jain, who lives in Pondicherry, is actually an IT professional, an engineer who was working in corporate but left that job in order to pursue deep studies in Sri Aurobindo. And his only passion and only dedication is to study Sri Aurobindo's and the Mother's words very deeply, very widely, study their importance and purport, and also understand other spiritual essence and wings of India, especially. So he did not give us too much of his introduction. This is what he does, this is what he loves to do, and that is why he's here to answer a lot of our questions. But before I post any question to him, I request Mr. Anmol to enlighten us about the significance of the day today. To a lot of people who are new to us, would like to know the importance of Sri Aurobindo's Mahasamadhi on this day, on the 5th of December, 1950, that it happened. Over to you.
Thank you, Shruti. Namaste to everybody. My gratitude also to Sakar for giving me this opportunity on such an important day. In the Earth's history, those who have studied Sri Aurobindo deeply, they know who he is. And, slowly and slowly, the importance of Sri Aurobindo is being understood by the world also. Regarding today's date, it is the day when he left his body after an avataric tapasya. There is no other word for it. Actually, even the word avatar is too small to describe Sri Aurobindo, but for lack of a better word, we can use that. He left his body at 1:26 in the morning on the 5th, and his body was placed in the samadhi on the 9th. The reason for that I will tell. Just the importance of the day, because that was asked. So it is very heartening to note that in the last week, our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has, I believe, for the first time spoken about the Mahasamadhi of Sri Aurobindo. And he gave 2 or 3 wonderful sentences how if we study Sri Aurobindo deeply, we ourselves gain in depth. And if we know him better, if we know Sri Aurobindo better, we can know ourselves better. And that by reading Sri Aurobindo, we get fresh inspiration for all the endeavors that we take up in life. Actually, those are 3 wonderful sentences said by him. Secondly, I got the news yesterday night that even the education minister of the country has written a book, a biography on Sri Aurobindo, and has offered it to the president today. So even at the national level, the importance of the day is being recognized. If I go too deep into, and some of the viewers already may be devotees of Sri Aurobindo, so they may be already aware who he is. He is not just a rishi or a yogi. Some people call him Mahayogi, Maharishi. Frankly speaking, even the word avatar is too small for him. That might, send some questions in some people's mind. How can you say such a thing? Because the word avatar is so big in Indian thought. But that's how it is. I mean, you need to read his life. You need to read some of his letters to understand what he is. I'll just say what happened. I mean, he left his body on this date, 5th December in 1950. And it was quite a phenomenon. I mean, he had done this tapasya in Pondicherry for 40 years, and he was, you know, he coined this word supramental, and he was trying to bring down that supramental light down into the very earth. And when he left his body, the characteristic color of that supramental light is golden. So when he left his body, the question may arise that why, if he left his body on the 5th, how could it be that in the tropical climate of Pondicherry, the body was, kept for 4 days without burial or anything of that sort? Because it was glowing with such a golden light, a golden light. And I have met one lady here. She was around 10 years old at that time. And she told me, I mean, with my naked eyes, I saw that light. There was no need for even any subtle sight or anything. It was so powerful. It was so radiant. Today morning, I saw on my phone a newspaper cutting from that time where, even the newspaper is reporting that the body is not decaying and this golden light is coming out of his body. His body is charged with that supramental force. So mother was standing next to, maybe just behind him behind his bed. Now and then she was coming from her room. And as she stood there, all this supramental light which had accumulated in his body, it passed on to her body slowly. And she describes it later to a disciple in what is called the mother's agenda. How, she felt the friction of that force entering her body, and she felt the sensation physically. That's what the word she uses, friction. And, the sensation was felt almost physically. And then he left the scene. He chose to do it. He had conquered. He had full control over his even body. He had cured several people. But as mother said, he chose to leave his body for reasons so sublime that we cannot understand. She said also that he chose to give up the realization in his own body to hasten the realization of the earth. So I'll go along now. So this light entered into mother's body, and she was working here on the earth in a physical human form, and he was working from behind the scenes, so to speak. He did not stop working even after leaving his body. And due to their combined effort, the mission for which mother and Sri Aurobindo both had come on earth, that got fulfilled on 29th February 1956. So if you take from the day, today's date, 5th December 1950, so 5 years and 2 months. And it was that difficult a task that he had to even leave his body, and she had to continue. And that day the mother has called the golden day. She said it is the birth of a new world. As we will go along in our conversation, some of the devotees must obviously be knowing about these things, but just to remember that great event. And since also we sometimes feel that death and the person has gone away, so I would request Shruti to show the first slide where Sri Aurobindo has made the promise that he will not leave the earth atmosphere until it is transformed. But it is best to read that in mother's own words. Slide 1. Yes, so she made this observation, she made this declaration on 7th December, 2 days later. Lord, this morning thou hast given me the assurance that thou wouldst stay with us until thy work is achieved, not only as a consciousness which guides and illumines, but also as a dynamic presence in action. In unmistakable terms, look at the power of the word. Thou hast promised that all of thyself would remain here, and all of thyself would remain here and not leave the earth atmosphere until earth is transformed. Grant that we may be worthy of this marvelous presence, and that henceforth everything in us be concentrated on the one will to be more and more perfectly consecrated to the fulfillment of thy sublime work. I mean, this is a prayer and a meditation, everything in one. So, yes, and since we were speaking about his leaving the body, I would like to say in this thread only right now that he had even aimed for physical immortality. According to him, the Prithvi is not a Mrityu Loka, as it is said in the Puranas or this. According to him, it is an evolutionary Loka. Vikasman Lok hai, Mrityu Lok nahi hai. And actually, today's date, 5th December, somebody asked the mother that, Mother, how should we spend this day? It's a very relevant question for all of us. The question was, how should we spend the 5th and the 9th? 5th being today and 9th the day when his body was placed in the Samadhi. She replied, the 5th and 9th in understanding what death is. So we, all of us, if we make this effort to understand, it brings a illumination and it brings us, closer to our true self, that which is immortal, eternal, infinite. We come closer to that by understanding what it is. There was a conversation of the mother with the students of the ashram. It is there in the volume, on education volume. And it was, she wanted them to understand what death is. And it went back and forth, back and forth. The final comment of mother was, in fact, there is no death. And in fact, there is no death. I mean, we are taught in physics, even this law of conservation of energy, that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only change from one form to another. So a mind which is influenced by materialism and only physics, I will not believe anything. Even at that level, it is true. You can very easily make it consciousness. You can go little subtler and it becomes energy, rather power little more subtle, it becomes energy. If you think little more subtle in the Indian words, it becomes shakti, and shakti is chit, that is consciousness. So what we are basically saying is the law of conservation of consciousness can neither be created nor destroyed. And chit, the next in the sequence, is sat, the pure existence. So that which exists forever, it cannot be destroyed. So he had even forecast in Savitri. I'm saying this right at the beginning. These very powerful lines from Savitri, because right now we are going through a pandemic and all this ghost of death and all this, it bothers a lot. So he has already sounded the death knell of death. It is there in Savitri. I would like Shruti to show slide number 2, please. Yes. Yes. For in the march of all fulfilling time, the hour must come of the transcendence will. All turns and winds towards his predestined ends in nature's fixed inevitable course, decreed since the beginning of the worlds. This is what the Isha Upanishad says also in verse 8. Vyadadhat shashvatibhyaha samabhyaha. In the deep essence of created things, even there shall come as a high crown of all the end of death, the death of ignorance. And Sri Aurobindo is not some fancy poet who is just dreaming about this. He has written this, means it is there. It is just a matter of time when it will happen. There are letters which can be shown. I mean, it becomes a little, but it means it is going to happen. 26th November was regarded in the ashram as Immortality Day, but it was something so sacred that the mother let it go into oblivion just 2 days after Siddhi Day, 26th November, Immortality Day. That something happened on that day, and it was like the promise of immortality, even physically, that was promised. And and then just finally, what death is, to understand that. First of all, for that to understand that, we have to understand who we are. We are not this body. As the Gita says, as Sri Aurobindo says, we are the unborn and deathless self, of which the body is a shadow and an instrument. We are that unborn and deathless self. We have chosen to come here. It is our own sweet will, so to say. And death is a process. Right now in the evolution, it is a process. Mother said that the death of the body happens because it is not able to follow the curve of progress of the other parts. So the psychic can progress uninterruptedly from life to life, no problem. The mind also, a part of the mind can be immortalized even after you leave, right? The vital also, but the physical is most resistant. That is why there is this curve. You go up like this and then you start to decline. But the evolution is not over. Evolution is just, it has reached the human stage, and the next stage in evolution has been opened by Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So it is just a process right now. The deathless being is right now there in a body which is going to die, but that is not the end. In the future evolution, what awaits us is what Sri Aurobindo has said, that there's going to be even the conquest of death. Yes, and of course, it depends on the maturity of the soul, how mature you are. For those souls which are more mature, it will happen faster. I mean, the rest have to do some yoga and all to, reach those levels, but it is a promise.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess we can now take the questions. Mr. Anmol, I think We can go on talking
Yes,
about
yes,
the
yes,
significance
yes,
and
yes,
importance
yes,
of
yes,
Sri Aurobindo's and
yes,
mother's work, but with the given time and with the amount of
yes,
questions that
yes.
we have,
If some of
I
them
think
are
we will
left
start
out right
taking
now
up
in
the
the live,
questions.
we can take them up later on the group also. I don't mind. But I felt that this much was needed to be said in the beginning.
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
No, no, absolutely fine. And it is very nice a
Yes,
dedication to this day
yes,
that we are
yes.
observing today. So, yeah, but we'll take up the questions which are, of
Sure,
course,
sure,
relevant,
sure.
which are pertinent regarding contribution of Sri Aurobindo and his
Yes,
consciousness and the work that he has,
yes,
that is
yes,
he's
yes,
still
yes.
doing, that is being carried forward. Uh, One of the most pertinent questions is how can we see the current pandemic in the light of Sri Aurobindo? Because we are facing so much, and everybody keeps asking this question as to how is this pandemic affecting us? It has affected everybody
Yes, yes.
without fail, without doubt. So, how do we see this
See,
in
it
the
has
light
to
of
be
Sri
seen in the
Aurobindo?
sense of his advance only. The topic was chosen, Sri Aurobindo, the future advancing towards its realization. How it is helping in that? It has forced a lot of people to introspect because so much solitude was never given to a lot of humanity. I mean, that solitude has sort of been imposed on people by nature or a higher power, whatever you may like to call it. And because of that solitude, because of that inability to go out and meet people and this and that, people are forced to go within. When you can't go out, you're forced to go within, and that is the first step of the spiritual life. Um, Regarding why it has come, I would request you to show slide number 9. In that, there is a very pertinent comment by the mother.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So this is there in the collected works of Mother. Mother in 1919, Sri Aurobindo wrote that the chaos and calamities were perhaps the pangs of the birth of a new creation. How long are these pangs going to continue in the ashram, in India, and eventually in the world? Her reply, see, it will continue until the world is ready and willing to receive the new creation. The consciousness of this new creation is already at work upon earth since the beginning of this year. If instead of resisting, the people were collaborating, it would go quicker. So, at the root, it can be said that it is the resistance to the new creation, which is also it. See, the root of everything is the spirit. The answer for everything ultimately lies in the spirit. So, the root of this pandemic lies there, and a lot of people are already having spiritual awakenings because of this. A lot more will have because there is no other go. So, and yeah, I mean, the spiritual future which he envisioned, Mother even said at one place that my only aim in life is to hasten the rule of the divine's love upon earth. So these are all nature's measures being taken to hasten our own evolution. All this materialism, all this consumerism, I mean, you're going to eat bats, you're going to do whatever you want, you're going to treat Mother Earth not as Mother Earth, but simply a resource which you can exploit endlessly. It cannot go on. It just cannot go on. So, I mean, it is like a slap on humanity that, come on, man, wake up. Enough of this blind materialism, blind consumerism. It has been going on since the industrial revolution happened. You increase the production capacity and then you try to forcefully market all those things. There is no need for so much things. I mean, all right, it gives you leisure, uska bhi apna place hai, it has its place, but all this blind materialism and consumerism has to stop, and this is one of the means for that. But ultimately it is for to make us go within ourselves, to question ourselves, to reflect on ourselves why it happened. It's entire humanity is responsible for it, not only a me or you or anybody. Everybody is responsible for this. We did not collaborate with the new creation. It came in 56, 64 years have happened, and still we have not evolved to the level to which Mother and Sri Aurobindo expect us to evolve. So I take it in this way.
Thank you, Anmol. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would relate to the answer because this is what we have been forced to go through.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah, but one question that often for those who are new to Sri Aurobindo's philosophy and this subject,
yes,
and one somebody has asked this is it is said that Sri Aurobindo's philosophy is different from traditional Indian philosophy.
yes,
I know we can have many hours of lectures on this
yes,
Trying
Yes,
to
yes,
find
yes.
out the differences, but I would request you to answer this in brief.
Yes, yes. Actually, if you can open slide number 8, there it is in very brief, just 4 5 sentences in Sri Aurobindo's own words. So we will read that first, and then, if necessary, we'll elaborate. Yeah. So he says, the novelty of Sri Aurobindo's message, as compared with the Hindu tradition, the idea that the world is not either a creation of Maya or only a play, Leela, of the divine, or a cycle of births in the ignorance from which we have to escape, but a field of manifestation in which there is a progressive evolution of the soul and the nature in matter. It's important to highlight evolution of the soul and the nature. This is very important because traditional Hinduism has the idea of evolution of soul, but not so much of the nature. And from matter through life and mind to what is beyond mind till it reaches the complete revelation of Satchidananda in life. I request you not to just put the slide away immediately. This may need to be dwelt with a little more. Um, See, the moment anybody starts thinking of spirituality in India, the first thing people say is, "हाँ, ये तो सब मोह माया से free हो गया." It's so common. And Sri Aurobindo calls it the shadow of Mayavad, like a ghost, it's there throughout the country. Um, also this idea which came later on into Indian spirituality, it was not there originally. Actually, then I should start from the beginning. It's not that Sri Aurobindo's message is completely novel in the Indian tradition. His idea, the divine perfectibility of man, this is a phrase he uses in the essays on the Gita. It was there in the Veda. He says this idea of the divine perfectibility of man was there in the Vedic times. The idea of the supermind was there. Even in the Upanishads, it was there. It was called Vijnana, but it was there in a seed form. It was not developed. So he has developed it fully. He has brought, so it's not a disconnect. In fact, in one of his letters, he says that the teaching of Sri Aurobindo begins from that of the ancient seers of India. He says this. Now, this needs to be understood actually very carefully by all, especially Indians or those who subscribe to Indian spiritual thought. It is not a cycle of births in the ignorance from which we have to escape. This escapism, this has become literally, our spiritual DNA sort of. We have become so accustomed to this. And Sri Aurobindo explains this in the Foundation of Indian Culture, his main book on Indian culture, how the initial ages, the Vedic period, the Upanishadic period were more integral. The due importance was given to life, to money, to everything. Later on, he says that slowly the spirituality dwindled, it flowed into narrow channels. The mental thinking also dwindled, and the life force also dwindled. But this dwindled after activities of millenniums and millenniums, like 7 to 8 millenniums, India was producing profusely. And then slowly, I mean, it became, and it was, he says, at this time, he observes that Buddhism came and sort of conquered Hinduism for the time being. It could never conquer completely. And then what replaced Buddhism in India? The philosophy of Shankaracharya. These are what are called nihilism, Buddhism, and Mayavad, Shankara's philosophy. So, significant part of his main philosophical book, The Life Divine, is written to correct this. Um, what should I say? This too much escapist tendency or this too negative tendency. It's a pessimism basically, that there is nothing. It's just a void from which everything comes. To correct that, and according to Sri Aurobindo, as in it is there in the last sentence, the the aim is what all we are going through, a progressive evolution. We are all essentially divine. We are all eternal individuals. We are all eternal portions of the eternal. Okay, we have come here of our own will. Nobody has forced us. There is a, if anybody wants to note down, Savitri page number 454, the section which begins on that page, it wonderfully summarizes this, uh, why we have come here. 454 in the latest edition of Savitri. Okay, progressive evolution of the soul and the nature. There is this line in Savitri, each part in us desires its absolute, not just the soul, even the mind, the vital, and the poor body, which has been neglected like for, centuries, if not millenniums. So the progressive evolution of the soul and the nature in matter and from matter through life and mind to what is beyond mind. What he's calling here beyond mind is basically the supermind, what he calls the supermind, till it reaches the complete revelation of Satchidananda in life. Satchidananda is the beginning from where we have all come. And that is where we have to reach in the end. Satchidananda has to be realized in this very physical body. Yes. And this idea of eternal progression, and this idea there is no end. There is no end. All the time we see in these movies and all, the end, the end. Sri Aurobindo has written a poem actually, The End, question mark. That's the title of the poem. It was written just after the Second World War, 1945. So the first page or so sounds very pessimistic, but you read the last page. He ends it like this. And even then, there is no end. So there is no end. We are all eternal beings and we are here of our own deliberate choice for a progressive manifestation of Ananda. It is because of delight that the creation takes place. But as I said, that when India became weak spiritually, mentally, it basically became tired. He gives this example that just like a day is followed by the night. So similarly, the day of Indian civilization was followed by this sort of night. And in this night period, uh, these nihilistic philosophy and illusionistic philosophy that became more dominant. Even then, the world affirming things were there. They could never completely. Buddhism was thrown out of India practically because India's psyche could not, ever accept it completely. It was too pessimistic, too negative for the delight which is India. So, um, yeah, the complete revelation of Satchidananda in life. There are passages in Sri Aurobindo's poems where he even reveals how the Ananda is being revealed in his own body. If you could open um, slide number 11 and 12, and actually 10, 11, and 12. We can go one by one. Yes, yes, yes. This is from the Thoughts and Glimpses. It came out in the Arya originally. And what is the end of the whole matter? There is no end actually, but it's for the purpose of writing because the truth is eternal. There is no such thing as end. And what is the end of the whole matter? As if honey could taste itself and all its drops together, and all its drops could taste each other, and each the whole honeycomb as itself. So should the end be with God and the soul of man and the universe. Now, just if you want, replace Ananda by the essence, God, and replace the soul of man by the cells of your body, and replace the universe by your own body. And just imagine the Ananda which awaits right in the body. Each cell is like a drop of Ananda. God is that essence, that Ananda, and this body is the universe. There is another image which is given in which it is said that the entire universe is like the body of God and we are like a cell in that body. But here I am doing it for the human body because there are trillions of cells. So it's easy to imagine the human body itself as a universe, and each of the cells is like those souls, and God is the essence. And that is even to imagine this is impossible. Little less, more easy understandable is the next one. Next slide. This is from Savitri. A divinizing stream possessed his veins. His body's cells awoke to spirit sense. Each nerve became a burning thread of joy. Tissue and flesh partook beatitude. And it is not some imaginary or dream mystic, nothing like that. This is hardcore experience, what he's recording in Savitri. Next one. Yeah, this is, discovered this only a few days ago. It's a sonnet called The Bliss of Identity. It is thy rapture flaming through my nerves, and all my cells and atoms thrill with thee. It doesn't stop even at cells. All my cells and atoms thrill with thee. My body, thy vessel is and only serves as a living wine cup of thy ecstasy. So this is to give a trailer of what Ananda, what consciousness is waiting for us This is the future of the body, actually. And for all those who want to go away to the nirvana or absolute, they are going to miss all this. So this is the final culmination which is going to come when the Satchidananda is revealed in life. And this is actually, because today was his death anniversary, so I've tried to take only examples pertaining to the physical and matter, because it's quite relevant, But otherwise, same fulfillment for the life. He says this joy of life. He says India was most spiritual when it lived fully and it thought deeply. There was when we were most rich, that is when we were most spiritual. And this joie de vivre, he says in the Foundations of Indian Culture, how the Indian culture just could not stop producing, because there was such a joy of life, vibrating and just going on and on. He says it doesn't tire of producing. I have forgotten to put this quotation here, but I think that's enough for this point, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Because you were you were talking about the difference between Sri Aurobindo's philosophy and other philosophies or other systems of yoga. One very interesting question that came up is, what is the difference between integral yoga and moksha, the idea of moksha? Of course, you dwelt on it,
yes.
but maybe you would be
I'll say.
the goals of integral yoga and other yogas more.
Yes. See, the moksha means, it comes from the Sanskrit root would be much. The cha becomes ka, so it becomes muk, and then mukti or moksha, like that. Muchyate, like that it is. Okay. It means freedom. Okay. Freedom from what? Freedom for whom? The soul is forever and eternally free. It is perfectly free. That's what I'm saying. You read that that section in Savitri, you realize that it is a free choice which I have made of coming here. So there is no place of moksha. If at all you want to say moksha, you can say moksha from ignorance. It is also true, Sri Aurobindo has said in a letter, that the general divine will is for a progressive manifestation in the universe. This I'm quoting from memory. I may be wrong. I'll correct myself later if needed. The general divine will is for a progressive manifestation in the universe, but it admits the departure of souls who don't want to persevere in the universe. So moksha is for them who want to go back into the absolute, the divine, the Satchidananda. Moksha is relevant for those people. In integral yoga, the aim is progressive unfoldment of the divinity. Each part in us desires its absolute. That is the aim of integral yoga, what he calls transformation. He has given us only till the supramental here. He's put the ceiling sort of, that supramental transformation right till the body. That is what he has proposed as the aim, which is itself a sadhana for many, many lives. But the most beautiful thing is that he has laid out the path so clearly. First the psychic, then the spiritual transformation, then the supramental transformation. So that's the thing. So you can say, if you are enamored with the idea of moksha, which is all right, what we are seeking is freedom from ignorance. And what is ignorance? Fundamentally, what is ignorance? Ignorance is, number one, not knowing who I am. The answer to that is, I am eternal, soham asmi. I am that. I am an eternal portion of the eternal. I am an eternal individual. Second, this he defines in the Isha Upanishad. What is ignorance? Though it's one and the same thing. Ignorance is avidya. Avidya means forgetting the consciousness of oneness, forgetting that everything is essentially one. This is avidya. That's why the Isha Upanishad says, Tatra ko mohaha kaha shokaha ekatvam anupashyatah. You can reverse it and say that unless you perceive the ekatvam, the oneness, you are not going to be free from shoka and moha. That's why at the last of Savitri, towards the end, on the last page, I believe it comes, to feel love and oneness is to live. To feel love and oneness is to live. So to rise into this consciousness where we know ourselves as eternal, we know ourselves as one with that Brahman. We are that, to know in that. That is the moksha for integral yoga. Otherwise, in integral yoga, there is no need for moksha. Moksha is, and more, even the other paths, they are getting infiltrated with the supramental light, and the ideas are changing. They may not accept it openly, but the ideas are changing.
Yeah, thank you. I believe the person who asked got a very clear understanding of the difference between integral yoga and the concept of moksha that has been reigning the country since millennium. and that
Yes.
has become the very aim of our lives
And
always.
I would say to everybody, request, I assume that most of the viewers are from India, to read this book, The Foundations of Indian Culture by Sri Aurobindo. What we are taught as history in our school books, I mean, it's terrible. It's horrible, actually. We don't know anything. We get to know from the culture and from parents and this and that. But please read this book. It is a must read for every Indian, this book. And you will understand the spiritual evolution of India, how it has happened from the Vedic times. I cannot imagine anybody else writing a book of this kind. I mean, it's only the Bhagwan, the divine, who can write such a book. So,
Yeah, so that book which Anmol is referring to has been renamed as Renaissance in India now,
yes,
which is
yes,
available. So Foundations of Indian Culture is included in it. It is a part
yes,
of it,
yes,
and it's definitely worth reading. It is a an eye opener. I would say that's a wonderful
yes,
book.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, Anmol, can you please now deliberate upon your topic, as you say, Sri Aurobindo, the future advancing towards its realization? Of course, we've
Yes,
been talking about it, but maybe you
yes,
can elaborate it on a little more.
yes, yes. Um, we have time. We have around 25 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Can we open the slide number 3? This is from the Life Divine. Sri Aurobindo wrote this in 1940. It is in the last 6 chapters of the Life Divine. This describes very well the situation at that time, and more or less it describes it even as it is now. And it is very pertinent and relevant. And then I will come to what he was aiming for and how it is already happening. So I'll just read this. It'll take probably 3-4 minutes. So please bear with me. At present, mankind is undergoing an evolutionary crisis. This is the crisis of all crises. This is the root cause why we are restless or we are seeking this and that or whatever. It's because we are going through an intense period of evolutionary transition. So I'll start from the beginning again. At present, mankind is undergoing an evolutionary crisis in which is concealed a choice of its destiny. For a stage has been reached in which the human mind has achieved in certain directions an enormous development, while in others it stands arrested and bewildered and can no longer find its way. A structure of the external life has been raised up by man's ever active mind and life will, a structure of an unmanageable hugeness and complexity, for the service of his mental, vital, physical claims and urges, a complex political, social, administrative, economic, cultural machinery, an organized collective means for his intellectual, sensational, aesthetic, and material satisfaction. Man has created a system of civilization which has become too big for his limited mental capacity and understanding, and his still more limited spiritual and moral capacity to utilize and manage. A too dangerous servant of his blundering ego and its appetites. For no greater seeing mind, no intuitive soul of knowledge has yet come to his surface of consciousness, which could make this basic fullness of life a condition for the free growth of something that exceeded it. This new fullness of the means of life might be, by its power for a release from the incessant unsatisfied stress of his economic and physical needs, an opportunity for the full pursuit of other and greater aims surpassing the material existence, for the discovery of a higher truth and good and beauty, for the discovery of a greater and diviner spirit which would intervene and use life for a higher perfection of the being. But it is being used instead for the multiplication of new wants and an aggressive expansion of the collective ego. Next one. It's actually one paragraph fitted into 3 slides. At the same time, yes, science has put at its disposal many potencies of the universal force and has made the life of humanity materially one. But what uses this universal force is a little human individual or communal ego with nothing universal in its light of knowledge or its movements, no inner sense or power which would create in this physical drawing together of the human world a true life unity, a mental unity, or a spiritual oneness. All that is there is a chaos of clashing mental ideas. Just go to the next page. I'll read the last lines of this. Yes. So I'm just reading the last sentence because otherwise we're losing time. Reason and science can only help by standardizing, by fixing everything into an artificially arranged and mechanized unity of material life. A greater whole being, whole knowledge, whole power is needed to weld all into a greater unity of whole life. This whole being, whole knowledge, whole power, and whole life is what he has called the supramental consciousness. In the highlights of the talk, one of the uh, topics was there, one of the points was there: ascension of the earth into the higher hemisphere. So in the life divine, we call Brahmanda. Na? So Anda is a sphere basically, or it can be a sphere. It is divided into two parts, the Parardha and the Aparardha. And there are 7 principles. This is a Vedic knowledge. It is there in the life divine again and again. It is even there in the small book, the Mother. Sat, Chit, Ananda, and Supermind. These belong to the higher hemisphere, and mind, vital, and physical. These belong to the lower hemisphere. The characteristic of the higher hemisphere is infinity, eternity, immortality. The characteristic of the lower hemisphere is the opposite of these things. Sri Aurobindo, as we read in the beginning of this sentence, this paragraph, according to him, why he came on earth, because it is the day when he left his body. His mission was not over, but he had to leave his body. He came down because the time had come to bridge the gap between these two hemispheres and connect the mental connect sorry and to make the power of the supermind, which is the next level of evolution, active in the earth's consciousness. This is why he had come. This is what he has called the spiritual age, or supramental age, or gnostic life. These are the terminologies which he has used. How they have now I say he is the future advancing towards its own realization. Actually, this is a message by the Mother sometime in 1967, when somebody said, maybe the question was not printed, I'm guessing, that Sri Aurobindo belongs to the Vedic rishis, past, this, that, something. She said, Sri Aurobindo does not belong to past nor to history. Sri Aurobindo is the future, advancing towards its realization. And we must shelter the eternal youth necessary for a speedy advance so that we do not become laggards on the way. Now, actually, okay, we can use this slide for highlighting this, slide number 6. Shruti?
Yeah, I'm putting it on.
Okay. This is a quotation from a book by a disciple of Sri Aurobindo, Georges van Brechem, Patterns of the Present. This book came around in 2001 or 2002. He says he had studied as deeply as he could, because once the spirit starts acting, then it is beyond the understanding of the mind, and that's what has happened. That something is taking place now is undeniable by anyone able to take a step back from the events in recent history and to examine them with an unprejudiced eye. This has never happened before. The growing unification of humanity. We just have to see what humanity was 100 years ago to realize this. A staggering increase of the global population, the establishing of means of worldwide communication, which in its complexity begins to resemble a kind of global nervous system. Google, some people say, is like the second brain of humanity now. All human beings who have access to internet and Google have not one brain but two brains. The second one is called Google. The emergence of a global awareness, an ever-expanding penetration and knowledge of new fields of knowledge of our macrocosmic environment and the subatomic constitution of matter, a tendency towards equality of the sexes, and of all human beings. And then he goes on. All this is coming about in an incredibly short time, indicating that it is no longer a matter of evolution, but of evolutionary revolution, of evolutionary explosion. See, the word spirit comes from spirare, I think that is the Latin or Greek root, which means to breathe. Which means to breathe. So the spirit is basically freedom. The spirit is unity. The spirit is knowledge. And I don't want to go into the occult dimension, how Mother and Sri Aurobindo have killed some, they have dealt with basically some of the most fundamental resistance to evolution. It is quite extraordinary. I'm not sure whether this is a forum for outing things like this. But the knowledge, we are living in a world of knowledge. We are living in an age of knowledge. Anything you need to know, it is there in your hand, right there. Smartphone, Google, YouTube, everything is there. So the floodgates of knowledge have opened. Unity, harmony. There is much more than what it used to be before Sri Aurobindo had come. Means of entertainment, even the Ananda aspect of the divine. I mean, can't we even imagine how many sources of entertainment are there? Some negative also, and some can be misused, but it is just an explosion. I have heard Natkarni ji giving example that even King Akbar 500 years ago could not at the 1 o'clock in the night he could not get his dancers to come and dance for him. Nothing like that. We are living in an age where we can just have access to entertainment whenever we like. The medical knowledge, the sat aspect, the existence aspect, um, the phenomenal increase in the knowledge of the body, and they are just going on and on. And we hear of anti-aging clinics, and we hear of stem cells and all these things. And he had even foreseen that a time might come when human beings might um, achieve immortality practically. But he had also said in the Life Divine that if they do achieve, if it happens that human beings are able to devise means by which they are not forced to leave the body, but he says if the soul is not progressing, then the soul will find a means of leaving the body also. So the central reality is the soul, not the matter.
Anmol,
Yes.
while you're speaking about this, there was a
Yes.
question. A lot of importance is given to the body or the
Yes.
physical in Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. Maybe
Yes.
you can take it forward or based on this question.
Yes. Um, it is given importance for the simple reason that, I mean, we are here in a physical world, and it was not given its due for a long time, though that is not the reason for its being given importance. The main reason is, see, we know what all the problems of the body are: disease, decay, incapacity, death, this, that. We have little nagging aches and pains here and there. The question arises that why that perfect being, that immortal, which is us, we are that, why we who are perfect in our origin have chosen to become this? The answer is that the true fulfillment will come in this only. I think this line is there, maybe in agenda or somewhere. Ultimately, salvation is physical. Somewhere I have read this, but it is so true. And the divine could have stopped, grossifying himself at the level of vital, but he did not. He chose to become matter. This is the final place where he chose to rest and then to evolve from here. So what I mean to say is that the fulfillment of the divine's original plan, what I read those 7 lines from Savitri, the transcendence will, maybe we can read them at the end also before closing this session. That was slide number 2. So what I mean to say is that the fulfillment of the plan of the divine, the original plan, which is, as Sri Aurobindo said, a progressive manifestation in the universe, that can only be in the body. And that is not possible if you don't give its due importance to the body. You have to increase the body in consciousness, plasticity. You have to love your body. You have to eat healthily. COVID also, I mean, a lot of people who are going are because they mistreated their body because of some wrong ideas. I mean, the body has its own consciousness. If you are torturing it, if you are doing wrong things to it, it replies to you, but it's a docile thing, it can't do anything, so it suffers from the mind and vital. But that cannot go on endlessly. And why the importance is given here, due importance, is because the final realization, the realization of Satchidananda in matter, those lines, those that fulfillment has to be in matter. That's why the mother, she gave so much importance. And the thing also, if the physical is not strong, if it is not wide, if it is not flexible, then when the higher consciousness descends, then the body can break down. What it is called the unbaked jar. This is in the Veda, it is said that the unbaked jar, when it is filled with that immortalizing nectar, then the unbaked jar breaks down. So even to hold that supramental consciousness we are talking about Satchidananda, not to speak of supramind, even lesser than that, upwards from higher mind, if it starts coming, you have to have a very strong body in order to hold that. And very simple, it need not need any lecturing or philosophizing for that. In this physical world, the reality is physical. That is why the salvation, the ultimate realization here has to be physical. That is why the importance is given to body here. It was long overdue.
Yeah, wonderful. That was a wonderful explanation, and
I
of course
want
we
to,
know.
yes, I'm sorry
Yeah,
to interrupt you. I want to make one important point. When we say the word supermind, supermind, na, it seems something like very aloof and far off from us sometimes. Sri Aurobindo has elaborated on this in a letter to Dilip Kumar Roy also. But I mean, in my recent study of the Life Divine with some friends, I read on page 145. I'm giving the page number so that people can read it. It came very close to me as I understood. And I understood that the supermind is the creatrix of the world. It is the creator of the world. It is that which has become everything and so on. But there he says that the famous shloka of the Gita, Ishvaraha sarva bhutanam hriddeshe tishtati. The Lord dwells in the heart of all existences. On 145 of Life Divine, he says it is the supermind which is the Lord, which is the Lord in the heart of all existences. No as there. It is the supermind which is the Lord in the heart of all existences. So what I want to say is, I felt a lot of happiness when I realized this, that with the establishment of the supermind in the earth's consciousness, it is actually the Lord himself who has got established in the earth's consciousness. It is the Ishvara himself who has got established in the earth's consciousness on 29th February 1956. Another I can explain like this. We say Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. The first one, first two, Annamaya and Pranamaya, we say Sthula Deha. Manomaya Kosha, we say Sukshma Sharira, Deha Sharira. Then we say the other two, Karana Sharira, right? And the first three, Annamaya, Pranamaya, and Manomaya, as a whole, they are called Karana. That's the beauty of Sanskrit. Just one syllable difference, and you can have such a, meaning. So Karana and Karana. Mind is called Antaha Karana. Karana means cause. So Vijnana is the cause. Vijnana is the word for supermind in the Taittiriya Upanishad. So that Vijnana is the cause, and it is that cause, that Lord, that Ishvara, which has got established in the earth. So this line is there in Savitri: a greater truth than earths shall roof in earth. Roof in. Chat, roof. ROOF hyphen IN. A greater truth than earth shall roof in earth. So it is the divine who has roofed in earth on 29th February 1956. Since then, Mother said we should not forget. She said we should go to sleep with this idea. We should wake up with this idea that we are witnessing the birth of a new world. Why problems are happening? Because the old and the new are still coexisting. And as she said in that message, that we are not collaborating enough with the spiritual forces, the forces of the new world. And if we don't collaborate, then there will be trouble. The evolutionary energy will not stop. It will go higher and higher in consciousness and all this. And if we don't collaborate, then so much the bad for us.
Yeah, thanks, Anmol, for elaborately explaining this question of importance of body, etc.
I would just
Now,
like to say even this
yeah,
much, because today is the day when he left his body. The main being of death, the original being of death, there is a conversation in the agenda, 1970, I believe, where Mother says, I shot him with a pistol. I mean, I'm outing this sort of occult things here, but it's all right. And by that, we understand that death has been severely weakened at the universal level. It is there. I can share the reference later on. She says, I shot that original Asura of death with a pistol. I mean, it sounds funny, but it's a vision which she's having. So,
yeah, wonderful. Yeah, but one pertinent question that two or three
yes.
people have asked, in fact, is how can we collaborate? Like you've been just talking about that we need to collaborate,
Yes,
and a
yes.
few people have asked that how can we collaborate, or how can we hasten this coming of the spiritual future of the world, or of what Sri Aurobindo and the Mother have envisaged?
See, as I understand it, he had chosen the word truth consciousness to describe the supermind in the Life Divine. He had taken it from the Rig Veda, Rit Chit, truth consciousness. So it is a truth consciousness which is wanting to express itself. Therefore, it's very simple. We have to be true in, we have to be truthful in speech, in feelings, in actions at all levels. This is the basic thing: to be truthful, to be sincere. What the Isha says in its last verse, ये जो हमारे अंदर crookedness है ना, इसको हटाओ. To remove this crookedness, to become straight, to become truthful. This is the main thing. This is for the intellectual aspect. For the heart side, to seek ways for developing love for the divine. Because As Sri Aurobindo has said, the heart of man is nearer to the truth than his intelligence. The intelligence may not understand the divine so fast, but the heart immediately responds to the divine. So, to try to develop bhakti, to try to understand what the divine is, read the Gita, read the prayers and meditations of the mother, all these things. And see, the answer to this, how to collaborate, it is there in Mother and Sri Aurobindo's works. They need to be studied. Even the small book, The Mother, it's like a, I mean, it's a bomb. It's a very, very powerful book. And if people read and follow just that, they will very well collaborate with this spiritual future which is coming. And to be open to the forces of truth, to be open to the to take sides with the daivic forces, not the asuric forces, the negative forces. To build, Mother said, choose to be a voluntary optimist. This has been actually the problem of India. Pessimism, pessimism, pessimism. Anything anybody says, do you want this? No, no, no. High time we started saying yes to everything. Yes to life. Yes to everything. This just difference between yes and no, this will make a big difference. Because what that spiritual future, that supramental force is seeking is its own fulfillment, and it is our own fulfillment. It is what we have been waiting since that we came on earth. So essentially it is this. This is the subtlemost. And then of course, yoga, you can take up whatever yoga suits your nature and prior development and go on in it. But fundamentally, and we are seeing this, that falsehood, wherever it is being exposed like anything. No matter how big you are, doesn't matter. You will be exposed if you have done something wrong. So to be truthful, to stick to right. This is the subtlemost. One can then expand on this more and more. But and to try to love the divine genuinely, because he is the source. Without him we are nothing. Without the divine we are nothing. So to try to understand who is the divine, try to love him, practice some bhakti. Do not think that our things which are there in the culture, even temples and this and that, they are useless. They are not. If it helps to develop genuine bhakti, if it is getting you trapped in forms and rituals and all, then of course you should not do it, or you should do it only till the time you need it. But whatever is developing genuine bhakti in you for the divine, genuine love in you for the divine, that should be developed.
But Anmol, just one clarification maybe you can give here.
Yes,
which when the mother told everyone to cling to truth, and then everybody clung to their own truth. Maybe when you say that we should side with the truth.
Yeah. Their own truth is the way of the overmind, because it is the overmind which seeks for the fulfillment of each truth independently. But the truth with a capital T, the true truth, that is the supermind, that is the consciousness of oneness. That is why this line cannot often be repeated. To feel love and oneness is to live. Unless you can see that one, that divine in the vilest of worms, Sri Aurobindo says in one aphorism, till then you have not reached the goal. So to feel love and oneness is to live. To aspire for harmony everywhere, everywhere. Not my truth versus your truth. This is what he says in the first page of the essays on the Gita, that enough of these religions with their sectarianism and their creeds and their cults, they have just divided mankind. No, that single truth, and which is why the age of religions is over. Mother said this categorically. In fact, with the establishment of the supermind, the age of religions is over. Now it is the age of the one, the spirit. So it's not my truth versus your truth. And actually, it's not easy. It is very easy to say, to feel love and oneness is to live. But this is something we have to progressively grow into. He explains this in the Isha Upanishad volume, that this is the final thing. But wherever there is a difference, we have to try to, and this is what Mother said, that why are we on earth? To find the divine who is in us and in all things. The divine is there everywhere, in every human being. If you are not able to find it, is your problem, not the divine's. So to be sincere, and to be sincere, Mother said that sincerity is such a rare virtue that if you find it, you should bow down before that person. If one is sincere, everything happens automatically. Nothing else needs to be done.
Yeah, Anmol, we'll just take a last question.
Yes.
That has been posted on the chat.
Yeah.
And there's one person who is asking that this concept of integral transformation, has any other guru or any other person spoken about this outside Sri Aurobindo's?
They have spoken.
Yeah. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they have spoken. Sri Aurobindo left his body in 1950, and the ashram is not very, particular about. They are actually not very much patent and all this. That's why people are there in America. Some people are there. I don't want to take names. In India also, some people are doing Gurugiri on the name of Sri Aurobindo. But the idea of the integral yoga, this was originated by Sri Aurobindo. In fact, the term is coined by him. In Sanskrit, it's called Purna Yoga. So the source of all this is Sri Aurobindo. And see, that's what I'm saying. When you have this kind of doubts, try to read those volumes where Mother and Sri Aurobindo have spoken about themselves. There's a small book called The Mother on Herself. There's the Sri Aurobindo's on himself. When you realize who Sri Aurobindo and Mother are, they are the divine themselves coming on earth into masculine and feminine bodies, then all these questions don't arise. Who can inaugurate the new age? Only the divine. I mean, in that, bhakti sense. But to answer your question again, integral yoga other people might be using in their own way, but the ideas have been given for the first time in such a completeness. In the Veda it was there, but it was never developed fully. So the full development of the integral yoga has been done first of all by Sri Aurobindo. The main book for the practice is the Synthesis of Yoga. In that he has elaborated on what is this integral yoga.
Well, Anmol, that's the end of the session. We have completed 1 hour.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for those wonderful words. But I bring in here Dr. Anand Reddy to.
Shruti, can we, before completing my session, can we just show those slide 2 again, those 7 lines from Savitri? I'll just read them and then pause.
Okay, fine. Yeah, sure. The slide number?
Slide number 2. For in the march of all fulfilling time, the hour must come of the transcendence will. All turns and winds towards his predestined ends in nature's fixed inevitable course, decreed since the beginning of the worlds in the deep essence of created things, even there shall come as a high crown of all the end of death, the death of ignorance. Namaste. Yes, Anand Bhaiya.
Well, Anmol, congratulations.
Thank you.
Very, very beautiful. Very, very well done. Very clear thinking.
Thank you.
And I'm delighted to have introduced you.
I was speaking too fast because I wanted to compress a lot of matter into 1 hour.
All right. In fact, it's the greatest joy of a teacher when he sees his own student coming up.
Absolutely.
And seeing and speaking like this, almost as if myself in you, dear. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. And I'm very, very happy. It's a fulfillment for a teacher.
Thank you.
Your clarity of thinking, your expressions, your wide reading, you're wonderful. I think you're a great tapasya for all these years, sitting alone and reading and being with the master and mother. And I'm sure you'll go forward very well. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Present youngsters, we need a young man like you to take forward Aurobindo knowledge, and your wide reading is excellent. I really congratulate you with all my heart, and may you really go forward. May the mother bless you. Wonderful, everyone. Thank you so much for all of you. I'm sure you have benefited a lot. Wonderful questions have been given, and Anmol has given straight answers. I couldn't have done better than that, I can tell you that much.
Oh my God.
So, you've done a beautiful job, because after all, you have been so close to Mother and Master's thought. We can't better that. You see, you have been very close. Your memory is wonderful. And your appreciation, you can see in your chat box. I think you can spend the whole evening today reading them. But again, I'm sure you'll come back. We want you back in Sakar on the forum.
Let's see.
And wonderful. We are very happy that as a debut speaker, you have been very successful. Thank you.
So
All the best.